Okay, as transfer students, the evidence would suggest, I'm going to say this phrase repeatedly, but as transfer students, the evidence would suggest that it's harder for you to do good in classes and reach graduation. So that's evidence based on graduation rates from the Office of Institutional Analysis. Every college has one, and you can see the different ways that there are interventions to help graduation rates go up. Everything is evidence-based. What does that mean? Academic librarians are kind of in the middle of this, and it depends on the discipline that you're coming from, how heavy you go into the evidence-based versus gathering like social science data like opinions and things like that. But if you go back to hunter-gatherer days, oh, by the way, I'm reading, if you're if you want the long version of what I'm talking about today, um, Nexus, A Brief History of Information Networks from the Stone Age to AI. Real interesting for some people. So I shared my wife some quotes from this, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I could never read that. That's like painful." But if you go back to hunter-gatherer times, which lasted for Homo sapiens and our predecessors on the timeline, our greatest success, especially as Homo sapiens, was to imagine something like a goal or in value in something where everyone could cooperate. Neanderthals apparently weren't very good at this, although the evidence would suggest their prefrontal cortex was bigger. Maybe they were just like good at going along by themselves. But Homo sapiens, whole shot, if you were, their competitiveness was the ability to imagine that there was maybe an authority figure or that there was a common goal or something symbolized something that could be traded later. So like obsidian or these little shells could be used as exchange that you could then, it's like the precursors of money and things like that. No other species has been able to do that, except for maybe like ravens and things like that, where they bring like shiny things to people, which is absolutely cool. So what we have is our imagined reality and the evidence-based reality. So there was somebody in the 1980s who said there was like this big storm in Florida, a hurricane, and it knocked down like a whole city. And there was people looking for meaning making of like what mattered and what existed. And there's this one person, I can't remember who it was. He was a national religious leader. And he said, "Oh, it's the gay people. This town got destroyed because of gay people. There's too many gay people in this town." And that imagined reality, it was hard to find evidence that gay people brought this hurricane. And so there's like this constant tension that's even going on today in political events. So our country's leader maybe wanted Greenland, or maybe there's discourse going on in Minneapolis. The evidence, people are saying, well, we need to examine the evidence. We need to examine the evidence. This is what's going on in all of the disciplines. So, for example, there was somebody, of course they did this, but there was a scientist who figured out that you could keep electricity in a battery and then you could shock stuff later. And so his parlor trick was to get a bunch of people to hold hands, and then they would like hold on to like an electrode, and then the person on the end, everyone would get zapped and they'd fall down to the ground. And then he would like say, this is, you could use this to cure things, and they would make up all sorts of speculative stuff. But the evidence would suggest that it had nothing to do with some of the social things. So scholarship is that moment where there's all of these things that are evidence-based. We look at things as objectively as we can. This goes back like hundreds of years, even farther, but the main brunt of it is like the 20th century, like the scientific revolution, the Renaissance, the Enlightenment. There was a lot of things going on with like mathematics and physical properties of things, or looking at Jupiter and seeing that there's moons on there. Maybe we're not the center of the universe, but it turns into this scholarly discourse where we're just like, we say, we don't know. So we're going to take a look at it. So if you go to AI and you ask it questions like, oh, I'm going to go to AI. I'm trying to go to AI. Oh, I could just move my browser down, couldn't I? So if I go to AI and I say, where'd my Gemini go? Um, oh, did prevalence, oh no, let's ask it. Is there evidence to support the Earth as the center of the universe? What we're asking when we go to AI is this is trained on probably all the scholarly articles because they were like the easiest to get a hold of. But it's also looking at like blogs and texts, and this is constantly being negotiated what the AI is being trained on. But when it says, well, there's the observer illusion. So if I'm the observer, this goes into like quantum mechanics too, where if you observe something, you change it. Um, which is absolutely wonderful. Um, but it gives you names like geocentrism, but there's not a lot of evidence. So what we do is we ask AI for maybe some of the keywords, and then we can go to the academic library and we can put in those loaded keywords like geocentrism, and we'll find articles about that or book chapters or things like that. So you can also do, oh, it's being recorded. Fine. I grudgingly accept. So you could type in anything, and typically it's going to be evidence-based here. If you go out to AI, we don't know what the sources are, but in this case, we're looking and we're asking for the sources themselves. So if we ask something complex like, oh, bring me back. Oh, I'm going to go to advanced search. Sorry, I'm going to move all the faces just temporarily. So if I go to advanced search, and I want to find evidence about something that I'm working on, so my population is transfer students. So I'm not looking for it to tell me something. I'm asking it to show me the evidence, the scholarly articles. And I'm going to do success or graduation rates. What are other measures of success or measurements of success?
Retention.
Ooh, retention. So you might go to AI and say, what are measurements of success for graduate students? But if I look for those things, in AI, it's going to maybe give me like a, who knows where this came from, hot dog. So it might be coming from um, cows, it might be coming from worms, it might be coming from kangaroos. When I was a kid, there was this scandal that beef from Brazil they might have had protein from earthworms put in there. Because if you sold beef to the United States, a percentage could be random protein. And then there was a moment in Australia where it was kangaroo. In Europe, they had problems with sourcing it because they're putting in horses. At any rate, how do we find stuff like that? If you go to peer-reviewed journals after you do a search, instead of seeing the answers, you're seeing evidence based on the topics that we're looking at. So there might be something called transfer shock. And what we can do is we can go into this peer-reviewed article from 2022. So it's post-pandemic, increasing the persistence of engineering transfer students. Ooh, that sounds like they might have an evidence-based answer. Oh, so there's something called transfer shock. Uh-oh, we found out that engineering transfer students are not a homogeneous population. Uh-oh. So we can't generalize. There's one lesson. So if I was somebody trying to increase graduation rates in the College of Engineering, I might find from this that the evidence suggests that it's not a one size fits all, which is good. So if you've ever been to like a program, ooh, longitudinal program, decision making, isn't that cool? It doesn't give us the answers, but it gives us evidence to suggest directions to look for more interesting things that might be evidence based. What we have in our current situation is about 3 to 5 million scholarly articles being published every single year on every topic under the sun. So when you go to the library, if you don't know what keywords to ask for, you could go to AI and you can say, what are academic library keywords related to transfer student, I'll just say success. Vertical transfer, horizontal transfer, swirling. Have you suffered swirling recently? Evidence would suggest maybe. Students who attend more than 2 institutions. Non-traditional students, transfer shock. Oh, okay. Something to look out for is there might be an initial dip in GPA. So you go back and forth with whatever topic you're interested in. Here's the cool thing is everything under the sun that exists on campus as a discipline has to be reflected in the library or we wouldn't have accreditation. So if you're interested in Harry Styles, is there anyone interested in Harry Styles? His new song just came out a couple days ago. I'm afraid to listen to it because I'm still liking the old stuff. If you go to the College of Engineering, they might have something related to like um, harmonics, audio recording, digitization of audio. But this might be like pop culture. This might be humanities. But if we look, there's like 4,000 articles that have Harry Styles in it. Ooh, sexuality. So it might be like sociology, Watermelon Sugar, that controversial song. There's like 1,600 songs. So there's sex, media. It looks like a lot of it is, ooh, identification. So maybe political science, fan parasociality. So it might be low on engineering and high on social sciences.
Why do you use quotations in your search sometimes?
Excellent question. Because this database and all databases, actually, I'll segue into that because I was going off into the weeds with Harry Styles. If you find somebody said something, or there's a keyword that has more than one word in it, like electrical engineering, if you put it in just as it is, out on the open web, it knows what you're talking about. So for example, I'll go to the open web and type in Thai food. It knows that I'm in Utah. In fact, it knows relatively where I'm at. It knows maybe what I've looked at before. It knows that I speak English. It knows that I might have had issues with something in the past. It depends on what you're looking for. This all happens from because our privacy policy for the open web is pretty loosey-goosey. So this is something that people can find your location. So for example, my daughter shared her location with me. She's 17. So I can, at random times, she says, just find me, you can see where I'm at. And I can see if she's over at someone's house. Same thing happens on your phone when you search for anything. It's not going to look up Thai food in Mexico City or Tokyo. Unless you've got like a VPN or something like that. If you go to the library databases, because of our strict privacy policy, because of academic freedom, if you look up something that some legislator might disagree with, or that the president might disagree with, that's a problem for our students here and for our faculty. If you fear repercussion when you're doing research on something, that impinges on your academic freedom and it introduces bias and it produces biased research. So if you misspell something, Instagram, I'm going to spell Instagram instead of Instagram. It's not going to correct it, but it's going to give you every article that has that misspelling. If you have more than one word, like Thai food, if you don't put it in quotes, it'll look for articles where Thai might be here and food might be there. So quotes sticks it together. And you could do like a whole string of things too. So if I go to Google Scholar, by the way, you have access to 85% of the content in Google Scholar. So if I put in Thai food and I find an article that says assessing new product development success factors in the Thai food industry, if I put that in quotes, there's like 100 to 150 million different things in this search interface alone. If I put in that string of text in quotes, it's kind of like a mathematic algorithm where it will only find those things that have those characters in line. But an extraordinarily long and boring answer to your question, but it's a search strategy. So if you find something out on the open web or in a citation, you can look for it in quotes here. One thing that I've told my faculty to do, so I'm a librarian for communications, sociology, social work, computer science. I don't know how long I'm going to have that. It was orphaned, and now I'm like I think it's a foster home with me right now. Because I worked in IT like 20 years ago. They're like, Dale can handle computer science. I'm like, okay. Um, it depends on all of these different variables, but all of a sudden, you have access to it, and you don't have to ask a librarian if we have access to that. One rule out of that is if you don't want to buy something, look it up by title here, or ask a librarian. How do you ask a librarian? There's an Ask Us page, and you can contact us and get help. You can reach out to me. I'm dale.larson@utah.edu. Or you can go to research guides, another segue where I was heading. If you go to research guides, you can find the librarian for your discipline. So if you type in communication, that'll be me. But if you type in, let's see who electrical engineering is right now. I'll just do engineering. If you go to engineering, you'll find that this is the person that you can write to. We have about 50 librarians on campus, but we all do multidisciplinary things. So if you're doing, for example, I'm a social work librarian, but somebody was talking about, what is it? It's like bioengineering, where somebody was developing a prosthesis that was connected via an app that somebody wore on their hip that charged electrodes in their brain, but it was somebody who had lost their limb during war. So they were suffering PTSD. So social work, psychology, engineering, medicine, computer engineering, biological engineering, chemistry, so it wasn't rejected by the body. All these different multidisciplinary things happen organically for us. Also, you can go to databases and you can go by subject. This is another way to find your librarian. What was your discipline that you're interested in? Oh, I'm your librarian, by the way. If you go to criminology, hey, they didn't put my database up there. Oh, I've got to change that. So know that there's a human interface and it's not automatically perfect. If you go to the guides and type in criminology. And I misspelled it. Let's see if it corrected me. Oh, Lord. It's so hard to type in front of an audience. If you ever present, try and reduce the amount of the amount of typing that you do. So in this one, here's my favorite databases. And you can reach out to me because that's it. It's interesting, isn't it? That with here's history for you. When encyclopedias started getting mass market and they were cheaper in the 70s and the 80s, people said, hey, we don't need libraries anymore. When the Usenet groups and bulletin boards come on in the early 90s, hey, we don't need librarians anymore. And I kept on going, oh, finally, I get to go be my dream job is a bus driver because you can just check out and be nice to people. And if someone's not nice, they always get off the bus. But every time a new technology comes, librarians still have validity because we're translating, we're strategizing, And I was so disappointed that I was like, oh, it's over for us now. And it just, the dynamic keeps on growing. It's a little schadenfreude. I am happy to be employed. But there's every new technology, they hype it up so much. But use encyclopedias, use bulletin boards, use the internet, use AI, and use it to strategize finding this evidence-based research. Um, so databases, let's go to business. Somebody was business. Did my business person leave?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, cool. Okay. Hey, business person in the future. If you go to business here, not only will you find the database that the business librarians prefer for the easiest entry, but you can go to the guide from here too. Hey, it's Lorelei. Lorelei has an MBA, and Lorelei does not toot their horn enough about it. Lorelei is like self-effacing and all nice, but she's like this superpower, masters of business administration. So take advantage of these people because they know like supply chains and all this rhetoric that's going on, et cetera, et cetera. One question that students ask often is, how do I find something fun to read? Go out to the open web and ask what's hot, and then come back to our library and then look for the title. It's likely we'll have it. For movies, though, you can go to databases and go to videos, like what's fun to watch. And there's a list of databases. A lot of them are boring, like architecture, or American history and things like that, or Shakespeare plays. But we do have one that has pop stuff in it called Swank. Where's Swank? I passed it. Socialism on film. That's fun thing to watch during political turmoil. So Swank has like all the pop films. So if you wanted to watch Casablanca or 300 or the one where Tom Hanks is defending a ship from the pirates, if you want to watch those, that's where those are. Okay. So they can only describe this using words of teachers and educators. And you're trying to get this group out here to say it. So you'd be saying the keywords they have. Okay. Only the language of teachers and educators. This is what you would do. So if, say, imagine you're an education major, you would use some of these words to go in and study in the library catalog what people are using to talk about this particular thing. And you would use those keywords. Platform. Would the teachers say something concerning about it? So this is something, I'll give you a hint, this is something the students use. Social media. And you can just say any words, see if you can guess. Social media that students use, that teachers, what would teachers say about this? I've done this with like sixth graders. Here's another hint. And when I showed the picture to half the class, the sixth graders were just like, oh, short form content, social media, students like it. Oh, ding, 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 good job. Did you see that? So if you went to the library catalog and you typed in, well done, online users. If you typed in TikTok, you only have 97,000 things. That's a problem. So if you added a keyword to add context, so social media or short form, or even for students, we go from 97,000 down to 50,000. You could also do TikTok and banning or controversy or any number of different things. Every time you add a keyword, it narrows it down further. Okay, group that's in here. I'm going to show you a picture and you're going to try and get the online group. Hopefully the online people can say it. I'll say it into the speaker. Try and get the online group to say the name of this person. Do you know who this is, or should I do a different one? Okay, I'll do a different one.
I think I would, but it's the one that we all know.
Okay, you can only use direct quotes from this film. Direct quotes from this film. So direct quotes, we've already done that before. When you're searching for something, you can look for things that people have said. So what is a direct quote? It's a film that we're thinking of.
Is slightly paraphrasing, but it's like an onion, it has layers.
It's like an onion, it has layers. What's another one? And it doesn't have to be from this character. Oh, you guessed already?
They both guessed.
Wow, Shrek. Well done.
You got it.
Okay, let's do one more. Okay, people on the group, you can type that word in.
Yeah.
But you can only use terms that a nutrition expert would be using. Only terms that a nutrition expert would be using.
Vitamin C.
Vitamin C,
Citrus.
citrus. It's an orange. Ding, 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 ding. Okay, well done. You're all now deputy librarians. When you are looking for anything in the databases, we look for synonyms, related terms, but also expert focus terms. So one thing that students, and you can help people with this too, is if you type in a whole question into AI, it will pick out the words that mean the most. So in this era and future generations as we go, this will be a harder and harder exercise to do. Because we're used to just typing in the whole thing and having it pick out those high-level descriptive words that take us to a different direction. So if you typed in vitamin C, for example, not vitamin C, vitamin C. Oh, let me show you a database. Oh, okay. Let's do vitamin C in a different database. Something in the guides that you should be aware of is that there are general databases to look at. So as you're doing your work, there's often general databases for political science. There's one actually called, I don't know if it's called criminology or crime, but it's kind of like, okay, that's pretty obvious. But if you get into chemical engineering, sometimes it might be called something like InSpec or Engineering Village. How do we find the best of the best? If we go to databases, so there's general databases, but then there's strategy. I was about to say strategic databases. One is called Web of Science, and one is called Scopus. These are advanced databases that are, when they came out like 20 years ago, we got them on a trial, and then we had to cancel the trial because they were wildly expensive. And faculty descended physically upon the library, demanding that we get these databases back. And it revolutionized research in the last 20 years. And no one talks about it except for the librarians because we're nerds. So so there's one is called Scopus, one is called Web of Science. These are critical to Nobel Prizes, getting tenure, getting hired, getting stuff published, et cetera, et cetera. It builds quantitative data so you can have streets named after you, for example. So Scopus, it's a database. It's kind of everything under the sun, but this is kind of the cream of all of the databases. Hard to imagine, but the scholarly journals house like 100 million articles, like I said, and there's tens of thousands of scholarly journal titles. So there's the Journal of the American Medical Association. That's like way up there. But there's also like ones that are filtered down. How do we determine whether they're good or not is how many times they get cited. So sometimes journals have like a quick rise because somebody's got like a really kick-ass article in it. And sometimes they stay at the top because they've got a long-standing reputation. Sometimes journals go out of business and things like that. Scopus and Web of Science automatically have this curated list of the top databases for everything. So if you find something in here, like vitamin C, Oh no, let's do a criminology one. Let's do recidivism. Recidivism is the likelihood that you will commit a crime again after you've been caught the first time. And let's make sure that it's in the article title. So it has to be the most important thing. So in the past 30 years, articles with the title, articles that have recidivism in the title, which is one of those big words, you could go into AI and say, what's an academic library keyword for committing a crime and then committing another crime again? So you could get these keywords from there. How do you go through 3,000 articles? And I want to find out about like what's happened recently about recidivism. If we go back, the term probably was coined, let's see how far back we go, probably like the 60s and the 70s. That was a weird time. A lot has happened since then. So let's come up to like 2022. So people are getting back to work after the pandemic. Oh, that only narrows it down to 700. Well, that's handy, he said sarcastically. But if there's 700 articles that have recidivism published on it, the ones that have been cited the most are arguably quantitatively the best, in quotes. So we go cited by highest. This is not something that tells me what the best is. It suggests that it knows that these are the most cited. But what you have to do is go through and you're like, okay, I'm interested in machine learning for criminal recidivism. There's evidence to suggest that machine learning is responsible for some of the ICE targeting in Minneapolis. Is that something I'm interested in right now? You could tie those two things together. You're a scholar going through like a baking store. Is there any Great British Bake Off fans? Are you familiar with that show? It's one of those baking competition shows. You're not getting the finished product here. You're being given choices of like what you want to include in your scholarly cake, as it were. So you're like, ooh, machine learning, that's good. And they're like, fair, ooh, that's good. Systematic review, no. AI assisted decision making, no. Assessing protective factors in treated violent offenders, association with recidivism reduction. Ooh, and positive community outcomes. So if I'm interested in changing policy and advocating for something, positive community outcomes would be the one that I'd pick. So it's not presenting it to you like on the hot dog roller at 7-Eleven, which I secretly adore. I love roller hot dogs on road trips. Roller hot dogs, donuts, and a Mexican Coke are my road trip go-to food if I need to go through the night. But if I find something, scholarly articles work, since there's 700 on recidivism in the last 3 years, they'll give you a very descriptive title so you can see really quickly what's going on. So it's meant to be cruised through in that order. You go through the titles and you grab your articles. The second thing that you do, if you find an article that you really like, is cite the thing. Ooh, here's your AI tip of the day. If you have a DOI number, most articles since 2007 have a DOI. If you go to your favorite AI, my favorite isn't necessarily Gemini, but I like it. You can say, I'll even do word salad. What APA citation this do? And then if you put in that DOI, the DOI is a database, and this is an address, and it can look it up, and then it can take all that metadata and give you an APA citation. Ding, 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 ding. Gail's trick of the day. Citations that don't have a DOI, by the way, are a red flag because ChatGPT and tragically Gemini, I was hoping for integrity. If you ask it to give you an annotated bibliography on recidivism, it will go to recidivism literature and grab this author and combine it with this article and combine it with this journal, and it will look legit, but it will never have a DOI. So I've told all my faculty that. So If you're teaching anything or grading anything, if you see something without a DOI, that's red flag. But what you can do is this is like really quickly telling you their population, where they came from, how they measured it, and then the outcomes. Reading a scholarly article is for chumps. Okay, this is embarrassing. You should look at some of it if it's one you're going to cite. But I knew somebody who was a K1 grant recipient in genetics, University of Alabama. He was here, but then he got poached by them. K1 means you're vetted for like $1 million plus grants. He once cited something from a title. And he was like, Dale, it's no big deal, man. It was highly cited. I was just like, no, you can't do that. But these are designed to be consumed really quickly. So if you want to build your own survey, if you want to do your own annotated bibliography, going through the background literature info, the methodology, the population, the algorithms, and the discussion and the conclusion, you can, but this is kind of like it's boiled down. One caveat with AI, I recommended to an undergraduate class in fall that they take these and put it in AI and say, hey, what's the summary of this? The faculty wrote to me personally and had an intervention and said, Dale, I know you told them to do this, but it's giving us too much slop. You should stop recommending people do that. And I think the problem is whenever we go in and look at an article, we have our background intention that we want to frame it in, and it will never know what that is. So there might be some prompt that helps you get around that. Also, if there's 700 articles, you don't have to cite them all. And your professor will never know all of the literature. So be fearless and cite something. If you think it's good and it fits into your narrative and it supports what you have to say with evidence, your faculty member is going to be like, ooh, that's interesting. I want to read more. I want to ask more questions. They're not going to be dinging you on, well, I certainly would never have cited that. Because you're part of the conversation now, where faculty are open to like what's going on and what matters to you. Okay, how do you reach out to a librarian? Say you want to reach out to a librarian. Students often have what's called imposter syndrome, where you're just like, I'm not smart enough. The librarian's going to make fun of me, or my topic is too scary. Think of us like dentists that you go to even after you've had like a Oreos and you haven't brushed for a couple of days. It's a safe place to go because of our privacy policy. I'm not allowed to, let's see, am I allowed to judge you? I'm probably allowed to judge you tacitly, but we're not allowed to introduce our own bias into our working with you. Our job is to help you find the evidence-based research that supports what you're looking for. And we're not allowed to share it with anybody. So if somebody said, hey, what was that one guy working on that one thing? I would lose my job. It's a code of ethics that all the faculty have. And I actually don't judge anybody. I always get sucked into it where I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. Oh, let's look at this. So how do you ask? Here's some prompts. Ooh, also for upper campus, this is great because your librarians are really, really cool. Prompt number 1, I'm new to a class. Can you give me a quick tour of resources for business accounting? The librarians not only are obliged to do that, they're typically helpers where they like doing stuff like that. They'll be like, yeah, let's meet on Zoom, or let me make you a video, or come and meet with me and we'll have a cup of coffee. Another one, I need to find articles on random topic. Can you help? They will often fire hose you with too much information where you have to say, oh, please stop. That's enough. That's enough. We are vested in your success because we see society moving forward as a result of this evidence-based. We're kind of true believers in the evidence-based model. Another one. Can you buy this for the library? Yes. I have said yes to, and my budget, I got money to burn, people. Dale did not use that money gesture. Oh, this is recorded, isn't it? I got money to burn, people. If you're interested in something, that validates that there is a body of people that also are interested in that, and I'll buy every related title to it. So there was a sociology professor who was interested in voluntary simplicity. This is like living simply, choosing to scale back. And so I bought the book that they were interested in, and I bought all the books the library didn't have. There's about 67 titles on voluntary simplicity. So here's another thing. Since we have a strict privacy policy, if you say, I'm going to show you an example. If you say that you want, if you want the Mike Mignola Hellboy offshoot of Plague of Frogs, the hardback edition, that was $80 a copy 10 years ago. These are fantastic, by the way. If you ask me to buy this, it is against university policy for me to ask for your justification. So don't never offer a justification. Hey, I need this for a class. No, you just say, hey, we're interested in buying this. Can you buy this? And I'll be like, heck yeah. Do you want all the other Hellboy series stuff too? The person that wanted this one, they were looking at the social construction of outsider rhetoric for people with autism. And this was there's some people that, there's evidence that Hellboy represents what do they call it? Like ADHD and autism spectrum populations resonate with Hellboy as a character because he's a successful outsider that can negotiate social relationships with a variety of social networks. We don't need to hear any of that stuff. You just say, hey, I want Plague of Frogs. They'll be like, okay. I bought a bunch of children's books recently, like Captain Underpants. Is there any Captain Underpants readers? That guy was like huge. Now he's writing a series called Dog Mom, where he's this superhero that's a dog. I bought a whole bunch of those because somebody was studying the rhetoric of children's books and the social construction of something, something, something. I don't need to know any of that stuff. We buy, for engineering students, we buy standards. So if you need, I don't know if we're ASTM, but I think we're ASTM. We used to be a different standard, but if you need standards, we can buy those. If you're interested in articles, we can get anything that has ever been cited ever through interlibrary loan for free. If you have a print book, somebody else is talking right now. Dale is not talking. It's just a remarkably similar voice. If you go to the library and we only have a print copy of something, we have book scanners, and you can scan a whole book in like 7 minutes and send it to yourself or send it to somebody else. The rule of thumb, Dale's legal advice, is don't sell it and you won't get in trouble with the copyright people. It's when you monetize it is when you get on the radar of copyright law. But there's a lot of print stuff. There's a lot of electronic stuff. If you need something and you are someplace far away, I worked with a student who was in Lima during the pandemic, Lima, Peru. And I would always ask him to like show me what was outside. So I'm like, are you really in Lima? And he's like, yeah, check it out. I'd be like, ee. And we would send that person all the time stuff. So, don't sweat the details. Don't buy something unless you really, really want it. Finally, there is a lot of professional help embedded in the library. So I encourage you to go over to our physical library and wander around. Take somebody, if you will, but go to each desk if you're brave. Oh, you don't even have to be brave. Say Dale said, we're supposed to ask, what matters at this desk? So we've got the Writing Center, which has free writing consultations. If you go to writingcenter.utah.edu, there's Zoom sessions as well. Out in the real world, that's like $150 an hour to have somebody look at your writing. This is subsidized here because the evidence would suggest that there are some colleges that graduate students with subpar writing skills. I'm not going to say who they are. Maybe rhymes with Zisness. I don't know. But you have all of these things that are there to help, but a lot of them are based on you going and taking that step to say, hey, what's going on here? What matters? But every service is evidence-based. One hidden service that is evidence-based is that the third floor of the library is program free. So right now, there's a lot of people doing like debate me things or asking if you want to join their religion on the library plaza with the food trucks or asking you to sign petitions. The third floor in the library is there's nobody allowed to do anything. There's even somebody handing out Red Bulls one day and they got kicked out of the library. It should be a space where you can be protected from anybody soliciting anything from you. Whereas if you walk around campus, you might not have that. It depends. So if you need a safe space to be, students ask for that. There's a tutoring center in the library where you can go in if you need help with math. They coordinate with all the tutoring centers all over campus. So if it's like business statistics or if it's like calculus, we have 3D printing and virtual reality and nerds that love to talk about stuff like that. So here's a cool thing. If you wanted to take demographic statistics from a map of crime rates and superimpose over them something else with geospatial data, they have GIS people that can help you do stuff like that. If you wanted to do, social work did a VR thing where instead of going to people's houses and doing a well visit walkthrough of a house, they now have a VR module that they got help with that. So you can walk through and it's like a video game. So you see a pile of needles or something like that. And then a baby right next to the pile of needles. You can like tap on it and it's like, no, this is bad. This is not a good parenting skill. I'm just kidding. I don't think they gamified it. I think you're supposed to just walk through and like mark stuff. But the university is vested in your success, but they have criteria and standards that each individual has to meet. So there's all sorts of services that are hidden, Paul included, that are there to help you get over those barriers. Because some people are like rocking it. They've gotten personal tutors and they have like all of these foundational things that help them out. Their parents are PhDs that have retired to help them get through college. And some people are like me, where I couldn't afford college. And so I paid for it semester by semester. So the first few years of college, I only took one class every semester until I could start affording it. So there's all sorts of services that you can count on. And I'm one of them. And the library is one of them too. Okay. I think I've run out of, I had one. Oh, it didn't print. I had one last tip. I forgot what it was. It must have been an AI tip. Here's evidence-based research on success of transfer students, believe it or not. Transfer students are first-generation students. The more people you know on campus, the more quantifiably you are likely to graduate. So if you talk to each other and meet, or if you hang out with class members, or if you hang out with Paul, or if you come and ask me questions, if you get to know somebody, there is a social burden that only our amygdala knows how to deal with that gets satisfied if you can talk to somebody and share that experience. So people who have parents or siblings that have gone to college, they can ask them questions. But if you don't have somebody like that, finding somebody like that is why we have counseling services and tutoring services, because it increases retention and graduation rates. So find somebody and talk to somebody. If you want, I'll buy you a cup of coffee. If you ever want, Dale, you said you'd buy me a cup of coffee. Let's talk. Over the 20 years I've been a librarian, 2 people have taken me up on that. And I was shocked, I tell you. Yeah, yeah. I'm not in the library because we ran out of room some time ago. So I'm always coming to places like this. So how you reach out to me is just say dale.larson@utah.edu. If you write to me, regardless of the class you're in, I can help point you to people for success. And it's fun. Oh, I remember what I was going to talk about now. Self-determination motivation theory. In essence, if you're driving the car, you're more likely to have fun. If you're in the passenger seat, it sucks. Self-determination motivation theory. Do you know this one? If you have an idea of what your end goal is, I want to reduce crime, crimes against women in interpersonal violence. I want to build a cheaper bridge that lasts 20 years longer than current bridges. If you have a goal in mind for something that you really value, if you can, with every assignment that you do while you're here, tie it into that thing. Self-determination motivation theory, evidence suggests that you're some percentage point more likely to succeed than somebody who's just going through the paces. Yeah, validation.